Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar today, Unlock the Power of ServiceNow's Virtual Agent. A few quick notes before we start. Your phone lines are muted today, so if you have any questions for our presenters, please use the Q&A channel. You'll find that on the left-hand side of your browser. And be sure to send those questions to all presenters. That makes it a bit easier for us. Also, Jeff will be doing a demo later on in the webinar, so if you can find your full screen mode now, you will find it easier to follow along in the webinar. Wow, I'm having a tough day today, guys. And lastly, you will get a recording of this event along with the slides no later than tomorrow by email from the same ReadyTalk address from which you received your confirmation. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Don Casson, CEO of Evergreen. Don?
Hello all, and thanks for joining us. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Don Casson, CEO of Evergreen, and with me is my normal co-partner in crime, Jeff Benedict, who heads up our ITSM practice and leads our innovation efforts. If you're new to our webinar series, welcome. If you're a past attendee, thanks for coming back. Our goal, as always, is to share valuable information and insights you can use in your planning and activities right now. The topic we'll explore today is unlocking the power of ServiceNow's virtual agent. Here's our agenda. After a very little bit about Evergreen, we'll dive into it. Beyond that, we'll briefly demonstrate some of the concepts discussed in ServiceNow, and we'll have some time for questions if you have any. Evergreen is a U.S.-based consulting firm, and we work with hundreds of mid-market, Fortune 1000, and public sector organizations to improve their IT service management execution. Over the past 20 years, we've delivered more than 4,000 service management projects. We are a full lifecycle firm, meaning we have both process and technology consulting in one company. We are one of a few top-tier or gold U.S. ServiceNow partners in services, application development, and training. As a certified applications developer, we develop solutions on the platform, which must be built and tested to the same standards as ServiceNow does themselves. We believe the benefit to our customers is higher quality. Here's something we're very excited about. Over the past 2 years, while working with dozens of our clients, we developed a set of automated code analysis tools to help with our own code quality. We combine these tools into one, which we call the Evergreen Instance Analyzer. It includes the functions of the ServiceNow ACE report and a whole lot more. It can perform an analysis of your entire ServiceNow code base compared to the published ServiceNow code best practices. Not only does it identify where you're out of compliance, it gives you a manager's workspace where you can run multiple targeted scans and actively manage your progress as you fix identified problems. It is a scoped application on the ServiceNow store. It has been available for only 1 month, and in that time, it is already the top-rated product out of 405 products on the store. We think that's pretty cool. We put our very best effort into making it really good, and it is free. Now you might wonder, what's the catch? Because good stuff isn't usually free. So here it is. It's a way to introduce Evergreen systems to you, to show you what we're capable of, and our unique ability to actually guarantee you high-quality code. If you need help building better solutions on ServiceNow, and you don't have a great partner, we hope that you will talk with us. Either way, you can still get a great tool for free. It has an easy-to-use workspace where you can select, launch, and manage multiple analyses at the same time should you wish to do so. The orange circle is one of our current use cases, the CMS to Service Portal Migration Analysis, or what we call Service Portal Readiness Review. If we launch that and run it, here we see the sub-workspace dedicated to that specific analysis. From it, we can see what needs to be remediated by logical groupings and drill into any individual recommendation to see the specifics and its state of progress. We can also see what needs to be addressed first based on a calculated score of priority, which you can adjust. EIA is built as an analysis and remediation tool, and it runs on hundreds of rules to test specific items. These rules can be combined into use cases for specific purposes. The current use cases include best practices, migration from CMS to Service Portal, the ability to target specific code, individuals, or teams, and the ability to create your own custom rules. Perhaps you'd like to see how one of your employees is doing and help them improve more quickly. Or perhaps you'd like to inspect the code of an application under construction today, or the code quality of work done by one of your ServiceNow third-party consultants. All of this is possible today. We have a lot of ideas for potential future use cases. I'd like to make a safe harbor statement here. While we are considering these, I can't guarantee they will ultimately be built. We are currently building a migration to London use case, which is pretty topical, to help you accurately prepare for and then not just upgrade like for like, but get the benefits of the latest ServiceNow release. We will showcase it in a webinar on October 23rd. Please watch for that invite. Here's our no-cost consulting offer. You can install and run the EIA against a non-production environment. Once you have the results, you can schedule a free 1-hour call with us. We'll review the findings with you and discuss how to best address them. No cost. Again, we do this as a way of introducing Evergreen. Today, we are really looking into the future from a lot of our perspectives, so we need a little grounding to start with some key definitions. It's interesting to note that only one of these terms is an idle definition. ServiceNow's virtual agent is a chatbot. Chatbots try to simulate human behavior in an auditory or text-based exchange. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a machine ability to imitate human intelligence and actually learn from experience. Natural language processing is a form of AI whose goal is to understand human language as it's spoken and to improve over time. NLP is frequently used to make search more contextually accurate. Knowledge is the body of truth, information, and principles acquired by mankind since the beginning of time. So any information is considered knowledge. The term knowledge is not defined by idle, and this definition is much broader in perspective than we generally hold in IT. Knowledge management is defined in idle. It is the process of sharing information and ensuring it's at the right place at the right time. What can Virtual Agent do? According to ServiceNow, it can interact with users to open incidents, make requests, ask questions, check status, and perform all manner of common actions in IT, HR, and customer service management. On the right-hand side, you can see all of the topic areas defined for Virtual Agent in the new London release. It's still pretty early for this technology in ServiceNow, so there isn't a ton of content behind those categories. There is some confusion regarding the definition of chatbots in the industry and to what extent they're intelligent. Excuse me. Virtual Agent relies on branching decision trees to guide customers to the appropriate outcome. Every step of the way is scripted based on choices made in the previous step. As an example, you can see above a simple decision tree for troubleshooting a monitor. It helps to better understand Virtual Agent by comparing it with AI technologies. To start with, Virtual Agent is not intelligent. It can only respond according to how it is scripted. It doesn't learn over time and volume like AI technologies do. Both Virtual Agent and AI can take actions, but only AI can analyze data and make decisions on its own. But Virtual Agent can be enhanced with AI support over time. For example, using NLP to make spoken English search more accurate, expose deeper personalization, and present better solutions, perhaps even using combinations that AI is feeding the chatbot. Over time, non-intelligent chatbots will likely yield to intelligent agents, like Verizon's Virtual Agent, OK Google, and IBM's Watson. On a side note, AI is a little scary, because once it lights off, even the developers that built it don't know what it is learning, how it's making decisions, or even what it's doing. Think of chatbots as a way of interacting just like websites and human support. A chatbot is only as good as the information underpinning it. Given that text or voice interaction is the means, this is actually a fairly limited approach. Think about a situation where today you could say something definitive and complete using your voice or text, quicker and easier than using a website portal or mobile app. When it comes to the output, how good can a non-visual medium be at presenting three alternatives along with their pros and cons? That would be a long text. So while ServiceNow claims Virtual Agent can do a lot of things, it makes sense to focus on engineering it for what it does best. Low complexity, high volume activities with highly consistent outcomes. This is where it can shine. What about the future of service? We will use our hands, our voice, our eyes, and our mind to interact. There will be chat, mobile, web-based, telephone, and human-to-human communications. AI, the new thing, does think and learn over time. It's still early, but ostensibly it will improve each of these channels, combine them, and even surpass them in many cases. All of these approaches, even AI, are enabled by knowledge. So it seems that knowledge will actually become more important rather than less. So what's the state of knowledge management today? There are some characteristics that define the current state for many. While we may have a good set of principles for knowledge, there may not be a way of ensuring that they are used consistently. Support staff are so busy, it's often hard to get them to participate. Knowledge can change quickly, so it's hard to keep it current. For many, since it is perceived as hard to quantify, knowledge is seen as a nice to rather than a must-have kind of thing. Last but not least, perhaps we're a bit old school in thinking the term knowledge article is a document. Maybe we should call it a knowledge artifact, or maybe just information. Here are actual results from a knowledge assessment survey completed by the support staff at one of our clients. You can see they feel it's too hard to publish, they don't know the standards or processes, knowledge searchability is poor, and they don't understand how they fit or what their role is in knowledge. Let's talk very briefly about Knowledge-Centered Service, or KCS. KCS is promoted by a group called the Consortium for Service Innovation. And it's a newer approach to knowledge management that is seeing rapid and widespread adoption. It runs counter to many previous knowledge management approaches, as it espouses a core set of principles controlled by a small group, but a much wider embrace of the actual knowledge workers to be able to understand and apply the principles more easily in day-to-day operational activities. Core to KCS is the concept of a double process, which they call the solve loop and the evolve loop. The work tasks is the solve loop, and the big picture is the evolve loop. The evolve loop reflects on and learns from solve loop tasks and associated knowledge. The solve and evolve loops enable each other. So if we look a little deeper, the evolve loop is what we would essentially call governance. It represents the responsibilities of leadership and the organizational level process. The evolve loop defines the solve loop processes and standards for content. It's also reflective in that it is a process continuous improvement based on the analysis of the solve loop experiences. That makes sense. If we refer back to the actual support survey, you can see on the left-hand side, the results we discussed before, we can see that 3 of the 6 key points are directly addressed by functions of the evolve loop. The solve loop is the request-response workflow where the work is getting done. Responders capture the resolution experiences to create a collective memory. Use of the knowledge base in a structured workflow increases their speed and accuracy in solving a request. Access to the collective experience through the knowledge base also reduces rework. In other words, not spending time solving requests that have already been solved. There are 4 KCS practices that contribute to the creation and maintenance of knowledge in the solve loop. They're capture, structure, reuse, and improve. Referring back to the support survey results, we can see that 3 of the 6 key points are addressed by functions of the solve loop. If we intend to change how we're doing this today, whether through the web or a chatbot, we should make sure we understand the benefits knowledge can bring. If we enable self-service knowledge and initial attempts to solve an issue, we reduce the work of level 1 support and can route issues much faster. At level 1, better use of knowledge can make a big difference in more accurate and consistent resolution and increasing the topic range that a level 1 person can actually cover. It also helps to train new support personnel faster and gives us a way to better capture the tribal knowledge of more senior support people before it's lost to retirement. Through the inspecting nature of the knowledge process, we can uncover ways to improve customer support and even eliminate certain issues at hand via training, remediation, or product enhancement. Today, most customers interact with customer service through the phone or email. These are the most common means. Self-service first adoption is a term we use to talk about making a self-service self-service activity like a chatbot or a web portal-based interaction the preferred means of customer interaction over the phone or email. If we don't do that, our customers will generally default to their old comfortable habits. But why is this? Is it because they're so old school they won't use web-based self-service? Not at all. Over 80% of them use Amazon regularly. In fact, 2/3 of American households pay $100 a year to be Amazon Prime members. They just don't like bad self-service. So ultimately, to achieve this, we have to reach a tipping point where we make it both easy enough and bring enough self-service value to flip the paradigm. Let's take a look at some best practices that we can use to help drive self-service first adoption. Like any good modern consumer experience, sometimes people want to search, other times they want to navigate or do a balance of both as they're looking for something. So we must have a self-service design that provides for both and balances them during the customer interaction. Clear, simple, customer-centric navigation is critical to success with customer web self-service. If an experience is confusing and inconsistent with unfamiliar language, the customer will quickly bail out and not come back. Here, this is an example where I've searched for Amazon device support. Boy, I'm really having trouble today, aren't I?
You both are.
I'm not sure what I ate, but it's, yeah. Which you see for Kindle below the search. But you also see additional navigation options on the left that I might be interested in. I think this is cool because it reflects the fast relational way that our brains work, so I really like it. While this may not be the case for you, we find that for many, knowledge is still viewed as written information, text, or articles. There are many more powerful ways to share and consume information today. It's time to embrace modern learning in our knowledge thinking. Thinking first about the outcome we want instead of the means of providing it will further help us unchain our blocked up traditional thinking. Last, regardless of the form or the source of the knowledge, we want to enable it through self-service channels. Here's an Adobe Photoshop example on Amazon. The product has a home page and traditional knowledge support like frequently asked questions, but at the bottom there are 6 video shorts showing how to perform specific tasks in Photoshop. Let's also think more openly. We don't have to author all the knowledge. The vendor multimedia language learning support out there is phenomenal. As an example, Adobe brings a wealth of interactive tools and training for the Creative Cloud. Microsoft, applications that probably account for 50% of the average worker's daily activities, offers a tremendous amount of multimedia support for all of their software. And Photoshop has a training channel to better teach you how to use their products. We can save a lot of time and trouble by finding and leveraging the vendor sources for knowledge. Along with internal collaborative communities, don't forget the relative external ones like the Microsoft one shown here. In total, external content and community can provide you a powerful base of accurate knowledge regularly curated for you. You don't have to create it or maintain it, so leveraging it can take your knowledge efforts to a much higher level very, very quickly. Last but not least, YouTube. It's where we all go to figure out how to do something we've never done before. Why not apply this format and thinking to our internal knowledge? Next, let's leverage collaborative workspaces internally to create very active communities of interest inside the walls, with the ability to share and search processes, documents, best practices, and lessons learned. Here's an example using a popular collaborative tool called Slack, which we put in place at Evergreen 2 years ago. The impact is almost not believable. It's dramatically improved knowledge sharing and the ability for our sales, project managers, consultants, and executives to easily support each other with a key side benefit. Email traffic has gone down by over 50%. While you may not have Slack, I bet all of you have access to Microsoft Teams. And good news, both of these are supported by Virtual Agent. At Evergreen, we used to run a quarterly blogging contest where the winner got something like a TV or an iPad. It was always the same 2 people that participated, taking turns winning, and no one else. It took me a while, but I finally realized that they liked doing it, and the rest hated writing. Eventually, I stopped giving away TVs, but they kept blogging. Not everyone is going to want to participate in creating knowledge. So identify the natural teachers and allow them some time for knowledge creation activities. Further, some people hate to write, but are awesome at and love doing 2-minute how-to videos. So why not? Last, make it super easy for anyone to flag something that might make a good knowledge article right in the course of their daily work, and you will get more good ideas. Create a knowledge factory embodying the KCS double loop thinking. We can build it right in ServiceNow. If we're going to build a consistent knowledge design and lifecycle process, we must get it in use across IT. Otherwise, what's the point? That means we want people from all across IT to imagine and build knowledge in support of the products they offer. And who better to do so, since these are the people who understand the knowledge that the customers need. In order to do this, we must give them the entree into the knowledge creation process and enable their learning and use of it. This can be accomplished through effective lightweight governance. We provide the tools and the guidance on how to author or update knowledge step by step when drafting it. Then once it's drafted or updated, it's submitted for knowledge review. The Knowledge Governance Committee provides feedback on what still needs to be done to be compliant with standards. Once the drafter corrects them, the knowledge gets our seal of approval and is promoted to production. This gives those with ideas the freedom to create knowledge while also ensuring we have consistent outcomes meeting our governance standards. It is a real win-win, and it works great. Now let's look specifically at some virtual agent best practices. It's important to think of the chatbot not as the primary or sole channel for customer interaction, but as another option for communication and support. When we architect its use in our support, we must make it easy to get into and out of, to a destination that gives us service. As an example, if we are using a chatbot to troubleshoot an issue and it's not working, we should be able to bail out and easily open an incident with the history of the interaction so far. That way, a customer doesn't get too frustrated trying to use self-service, so they are more likely to try again later. Use each communication channel for what it does best. Specifically, don't use Virtual Agent for tackling customer support issues that are better served by web-based search and navigation. It will just make your customers angry. Use Virtual Agent for its strengths, the nearly seamless and fast connection of self-service and automation. The best and easiest use cases typically have low complexity, high volume, and high consistency. This is where Virtual Agent can shine. So how do we find the things that Virtual Agent can do well? It's not that hard. We start by reviewing the top 10 interaction drivers across incidents, requests, and queries, all of our interaction. Now we can get this information from ServiceNow, and we can enhance our understanding of it with some interviews with our level 1 support staffers. This is not a huge thing. It's not a big deal. It's not terribly difficult. Once we tackle the top 10, we go to the next 10 and the next 10 until we have met the Pareto principle. That is, we've reviewed 80% of the volume of interactions for good candidates. Now typically, only 20% of the total types of interactions will make up the 80%, which is great. Going beyond 80%, which IT does about 99% of the time, is not worth the effort. So be strong and hold the line. Last, let's consider how we expose Virtual Agent to the customers. We want to give it a chance to be successful by not exposing it on an unfair playing field. First and foremost, it should always be an optional way of interacting, as we discussed, perhaps shown on the side of a web portal, so it's not forced upon users. Furthermore, we can even make it stealthy if we like. This is kind of a cool idea. Customers don't get excited about using a chatbot. They get excited about solving their problems fast. In the example shown, the menu bar shows "I want to," which lists a bunch of popular things. It implies these are popular. We could even call it most popular, but we wouldn't call it Virtual Agent. Then everything in the menu could actually be Virtual Agent-driven activities, ones that are a great fit for the fast self-service plus automation, and our customers would absolutely love it. Knowledge is not only valuable for customers, it's valuable for customer support too. In the words from Russell Conwell's famous book, we are sitting on acres of diamonds. There's great opportunity all around us. Starting with the top 10 isn't all that hard, so we ought to get going. And there are best practices examples all around us. And last, rethinking knowledge in a much broader way is a wonderful opportunity for customer service to change the value proposition, to change the value it provides to your customers. So when will we start? The world has changed dramatically around us over the past decade, and yet many of us have not. I think it's time to wake up and get started. So, where can you start? Well, how about our idle knowledge QuickStart? It can quickly baseline your current state of practice, assess maturity, improve your core process, and provide clear direction for a path forward. Best of all, it's only $5,000. It's delivered in a very short period of time, and it gets you moving. Okay, that's all we've got for our presentation today, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he will demonstrate some of these concepts in ServiceNow.
Excellent. Thank you, Don. So I'm going to kind of start with, since Don hit on the Virtual Agent, obviously it's a title of our webinar tonight. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on the Virtual Agent and kind of how it works in ServiceNow. But I'll also cover kind of knowledge, federated knowledge, and also that kind of governance model around your knowledge. So one thing to highlight with the virtual chat or the Virtual Agent is ServiceNow has built this to be used in a variety of different ways. I'll kind of highlight a couple of those spots in terms of using them from Slack versus Microsoft Teams, but the first logical place you're going to find it is going to be in the self-service portal or in the service portal application of ServiceNow. Now, I did, just for demo purposes, I did some light branding of kind of the Virtual Agent. I kind of changed the icon to this kind of high icon. I called my Virtual Agent El Jefe, changed some of the colors and logos, etc. But mostly just to highlight that it is very easy to make those kind of simple cosmetic changes to how you want to brand and present your kind of Virtual Agent kind of experience to your consumers. And this is going to carry forward to all the different places in which you provide access to the Virtual Agent experience. Now, as it starts, it's got some prompts here, but then I can kind of pick from the list of topics that I can start off with. That's one way to just kind of see kind of that top 10 I want to list like Don showed in the slides as kind of the starting point. But I can also start typing something like, say, I want to update my profile. And based off of what I type, it's going to match which topics kind of best align with kind of my phrasing and my keywords that I've input. All right, so I can say I want to update my profile as an example. And this is going to kind of look into the HR world of my employee profile and say, here's some of my information I've got, showing that I don't have emergency contacts defined. Do I want to define those? I can say, no, I'm not ready for that. Maybe that's not my intention of this activity. Maybe I'm looking to make a more specific update to my profile. Like maybe I want to update maybe my mobile phone I just swapped out for a new number. Right, I can come in here, make a simple update. I'll just say something like that. And like that, my profile has been updated with the information, and maybe that's the end of my kind of conversation on this particular topic. Right. So other examples, right? So if I do say, what is the status, and I can do kind of check IT ticket status. And you'll see kind of some additional kind of activities and prompts here, right? In terms of here's a list of my open tickets that I've got that I might want to check status on. I can search deeper into here. I'd find one of my particular incidents that I might be curious about, get some details about my incident, as well as interact with it, like maybe I want to add a comment. Why is this not being worked? All right, I can complain in context to my ticket. So I wanted to hit a couple examples just so you see this, and I'll come back to this in a moment. But I think the next spot I want to go into is kind of show you, let's say no for now, kind of show you the designer behind those topics, right? How do you build these particular conversations? And it's pretty simple. In essence, the experience is similar to that of doing like your workflow editor in ServiceNow, or doing what they have kind of flow designer, kind of codeless configuration kind of areas. And so one of the things you'll see is there are a number of different plugins that come with the virtual agent. There's an IT kind of content plugin, there's an HR plugin, there's this customer service plugin. So I've activated all of them here. That's what all these different topics and conversations are. So there is pre-canned kind of topics that you can start with and either adjust or clone and create your own, right, as a starting point. So I wanted to just create a simple one just to kind of highlight kind of how to do this in terms of creating your own kind of topics that would walk a user through that virtual conversation. And this one's just a simple example of kind of getting the weather for a given location. So the first thing you can do with this is attach different keywords to this particular topic. And this is going to be based off of as I type. If I put in the words temperature or get weather, it'll suggest this topic as one that I can interact with. Right. Also worth noting, there are conditionals under which you would want this topic to show up, or you might have specific rolled users that you would offer this particular topic to, and can segment who can see what in the virtual agent kind of experience. Let's go into the flow, and let me zoom into this so I can kind of highlight kind of how this goes. Right, and so this, again, I wanted to keep a simple example just so you can kind of see kind of how these flows can work. Basically, this conversation starts with an initial script to look at kind of what is my current zip code for my location. So it's going to query my record, look at my location, go get the zip code for my location. And then you add a little decision branch in here to say if my zip code is not specified, then it's going to send a prompt to ask me what's the zip code I'd like a weather for. Right? If I have a zip code provided, it's going to basically go out and query, get the current weather from that zip code, and deliver that to me. Right? And you'll kind of see if I went back to the other chain over here, right, as I prompt, it'll set the zip code, come back to the decision branch, and then provide the weather. And then once the weather's been provided, it can then provide me a choice of what else do you want to do in this conversation. Right? I can go get in essence, the weather for a different zip code. I can get the forecast for my current zip code, kind of forward-looking, or I can end this conversation. And then you'll see down below a decision branch to determine if I chose forecast, come here. If I chose a different zip code, come back to that prompt and kind of start that conversation back over. or if I said I'm done, finish out the conversation. So pretty simple flow, right, of kind of getting the weather, getting the forecast, getting different weather for different locations as a conversation topic. Now let's highlight quickly utility-wise over here in this activity. There's a number of different kind of inputs you can capture from the users. Text inputs, the static choice is kind of highlighted here. Right, I can pick a record from a table inside of ServiceNow, yes, no questions, kind of a date. Right, I might have a set of images like a survey that has happy, sad, angry. Right, I can have that in an image picker. Or carousel is another way of kind of doing the reference choices of listing some records in a kind of image carousel that I can pick through. Right, and then conversely, I can respond with text, HTML links, scripted output, image outputs, or these kind of cards, which are like those ticket records you saw in my previous output. All right, so just to kind of go back, let me show you this this particular topic from design to completion. Right, so if I could do something like, is it hot outside? All right, so since I use the term hot, it's going to use kind of that match on get weather as a topic. All right, and as I choose get weather, at this point it's querying this profile to get the zip code for the user and pull back kind of the current weather in the zip code of this user. Now, I personally am not in Bethesda, so I'm just going to go ahead and say, choose a different zip code. I'll choose my my zip code, which is here in Denver, Colorado. I'll pull that in. Now I'm going to get some weather here, which shows it's kind of rainy and cold and not as great. And then also noticeably, if I can kind of go through the prompts, right, go get the forecast. I can see what's upcoming in the next 5 days, and that kind of completes that flow I was just talking about, right? So just to kind of close the loop a little bit on the virtual agent and other kind of mediums or places where you can get into this, right, are, so if I go to kind of the Slack interface, right, so basically there is a kind of an ability to integrate the virtual agent into Slack, also Microsoft Teams. And the experience is basically the same. So as I come in here, if I do something like hi, right, it's going to kind of start kind of connecting to the virtual agent. I can choose from my different topics here, or I can start typing, say, what is the status of our services? And then based off of this, it's going to kind of whittle down those choices, and I can then see things like system status as a topic, and then it's going to interact with that agent to show me, in this case, known outages, and kind of see a specific detail of one of those outages can kind of come up in here and turn back that kind of card. Right, and that kind of just gives you an example. This same experience can be leveraged here as well. Also, just to highlight real quickly, right, so if I were on a mobile device, my iPhone, for example, I took some screenshots of that, right, I can do the exact same experience from there. I can launch the virtual agent. I can start that conversation. I can use the kind of voice controls of the inputs, right, so I can talk to my phone to write in what I want to kind of say into the virtual agent experience and get those responses and interact very quickly through that process. Now, since we're also talking about kind of knowledge as part of this kind of conversation, right? So if I don't have good knowledge, so say for example, one of the topics you'll see out here is search the knowledge base. Right? And so if I'm looking for answers for something like how can I extend my mailbox size, right? Seems like a logical question I might want to ask IT. My mailbox might be getting a little full. I can get back a list of knowledge articles. Now, as I look through this, I see a whole bunch of articles here that don't necessarily give me what I want, right? So I can kind of say, well, let's go look through some more. And my options are somewhat limited here in terms of ultimately if I don't find what I'm looking for, I can either just try a different search, say I'm done, or just continue to kind of scroll through the list of possible answers. Now, the other option I have, and this can be built into the topic conversations themselves, is that I can basically kind of have a bailout here, right? I can, in essence, start a new conversation, bail out of this, and go to self-service, or there's also a contact support option here. So anytime in my conversation, if I'm getting lost or can't find what I'm looking for, I have this option to kind of start this contact support. And one of the things I might want to do here is contact like a live agent, right? So maybe I'm frustrated, can't do this. And at this point, this is in essence falling back to ServiceNow's Connect Support or Connect Chat kind of option. Now the one benefit I'll highlight with this is if I were to go in as somebody who is an agent, right, they can see kind of a new agent in here. Let me see, did I need to re-log in? I might have. Sorry, I made one quickly here. Let me impersonate the right person. And let me go to their Connect Chat. Lost my session on here. But so this is going to have a new kind of agent or new chat kind of queued up for this agent to kind of accept. Right, now the thing I want to highlight with this primarily is that when the chat starts between the end user and the agent who's supporting this particular topic or particular customer, right, that kind of experience or input, so those details of what the user was doing with the virtual agent are shared with that kind of chat experience, right? So Beth isn't picking up kind of fresh and new, what is your problem, what are you looking to do? Right, she can kind of see the history of what the conversation and where it was going and kind of contribute or jump in from there. Right. So obviously the other way that we can get answers is, so other than virtual agents, through the self-service experience itself. And this is another place where knowledge can come into play. Right. So I think a lot of the tools that we have at our disposal are here in terms of if I do a search kind of for knowledge, I can do a search in our knowledge base, search for Office. I have lots of ways to be able to filter and look for what I'm trying to find. But I've got to have good content here to solve my particular issue, right? And then one thing Don mentioned, just to hit on quickly here, is that you can leverage things like federated search. Now, an example of that is one of the search sources I have set up in my kind of demo environment here is a search source for SharePoint, right? So I could conceivably, or I can in essence, make a kind of an attempt here to include SharePoint content whenever someone searches for, searches the portal, searches the knowledge base for information, right? So to do that, let me just kind of link this source to my portal. I'll kind of add this to the mix. All right, so now when I do a search out here, I'll just search for licensing as an example, I'm going to see knowledge base, but I'm also going to see SharePoint out here as well. Right, and so what this is going to do is going to go connect out to my SharePoint environment, go show me matching knowledge articles or documents in SharePoint that match my particular search results, and then offer these up so that when I go to click on these, it's going to take me to SharePoint where I can then open up and interact with that particular document. Right. So that's a good, it's a useful strategy to be able to include, other sources of existing knowledge out there in your repository. Now, last kind of topic I want to hit on is kind of Don mentioned kind of governance of your knowledge. Now, one of the things that you can do, and we've kind of created in this environment, is if I do, let's go to knowledge, and I say I want to create new knowledge. We've created kind of what we call a designer or kind of a guided help utility for things like knowledge or business services. And what this is kind of going to do is can introduce some level of kind of walking the user through the steps of creating a new knowledge document, but also kind of providing guidance along the way. All right, so it's going to start off with kind of what type of document I want to create. All right, so I'm going to create a new how-to kind of document. I'm just going to copy and paste some of this detail in here, and then I'll stick this in my kind of IT knowledge base and do a create. All right, and so it's giving me some background on how to use this designer and kind of step through the different sections. So I've got some content here that I need to fill out, both kind of an introduction and instruction, which is really the meat of my kind of document here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this in here, kind of save this. Now, other thing to highlight is as I'm clicked on to any one of these kind of components, it's going to give me some guidance here as to here's what is considered a good introduction for this particular document as kind of governance and step-by-step kind of tips on how to create a good knowledge article for this particular component and attribute. All right, so further, I'm kind of put in some instruction information. Right, same thing here, some instructions on how to make this a useful document that can be utilized as part of this process. All right, so I can continue to step through. We know it's in the knowledge base of IT, but I can go to categorize this. Now, one of my options I have here as well is a handy feature to say, go get a suggested category, which in essence is going to use natural language and the terms that I put into the document to assign based off my categories, what's the best match. So basically it's gone through and created this, through the tree of categories, assigned this to kind of Apple, since it's iPhone related, as a kind of article kind of context. Further, I can kind of click through, right, maybe I want to display attachments. Maybe in this case I've got a kind of a user guide that I'd like to also include as additional reference information that you can go in here, right, that I can click through and also make a linkage to some of our maybe business services out here. I've got a business service called mobile device support. I want to kind of pin this article in context to that particular service. And ultimately, I've got kind of a checklist of things I need to complete in order to make this document complete. Right? So then I can go through that kind of factory process. I've designed my article. I've marked it for, basically submitted this for review. And then there's a process in here to kind of review those documents. Oops, jump here. All right, so I got basically a task out here that's been assigned to review this knowledge article, kind of step through the different attributes, make sure they're meeting some particular review guidelines, right? And if, assuming things are not correct, I could then add comments, reject an attribute, send it back to the designer, or if all looks good, kind of mark this as complete as I step through the different kind of required components to ensure completeness and kind of aligning to these kind of governance or quality kind of standards that we're establishing here, right? And then once this is done, this should kind of move us to a kind of completed state. And then assuming everything worked like it should, my document should go to, as you can kind of see in here, move to a kind of published state, right? And then just to kind of highlight here, right, if I do a search for, see what a good search is for this, I think reboot or restart iPhone maybe is good. And we'll just see if I've got my knowledge article in my mix. Right, and so then ultimately I get a knowledge article that I just created today, right, that's got some good matching content that has my introduction, my instructions, as well as those attachments and other components that make up that knowledge document. So that, kind of quickly, but I wanted to highlight a couple things there. One, the virtual agent kind of experience, also kind of where knowledge, if you don't have good knowledge, how that can make that virtual agent a little bit of a challenge, right? As well as some tools and things that might be able to help kind of wrap around a good quality process in terms of authoring and creating good quality knowledge content for your consumers. So that covers what I was going to cover today. Thanks.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. So if you found any of this interesting today, here's some possible next steps. You could, perhaps you're interested in a deeper discussion and demo of our Knowledge Factory kind of approach that Jeff was showing there, built into ServiceNow. And the best thing about it is it enables you to put governance at work in the hands of the people that are doing the work. And then when things change, you can change the governance in the factory and it continues to work. I mean, it's a phenomenal thing to be able to do it that way. Perhaps you're interested in getting the free Evergreen Instance Analyzer along with our no-cost consulting offer. Or perhaps you'd like to get your knowledge management program moving faster with our Idle Knowledge QuickStart for only $5,000. If any of these are of interest to you, or if there's something else you'd like to talk about, please reply to us via email at marketing@evergreen, reply to marketing@evergreensys.com. Thanks very much, and we'll open it up for questions if we have any today, Steph.
We do have some. Let's see, Jeff, I think this one's for you. Is that Knowledge Factory a built-in ServiceNow plugin/application?
Yes. So it's a scoped application that I would say we originally built. I kind of had hinted at it in the demo. We originally built it to kind of model business services, but we've extended it to kind of go through that same kind of process for knowledge documents as well. But yes, it's a scoped application.
Great. Okay, another one for you, Jeff. Does the virtual agent support multiple languages?
So yes. So if you need to support multiple languages, then a couple things you have to factor in when you design kind of the topics. You want to make sure you configure those topics to support those different languages. And what I mean by that is you tell kind of in my virtual designer kind of area, there were areas where I prompted the user for kind of questions or responses. Well, you can use kind of scripted prompts where you can then assign kind of message records inside of ServiceNow, which in essence will leverage kind of the translation or returning the right message for the right language based off the user that's logging in.
Okay, thanks. Another one for you, Jeff. Is it possible to report on virtual agent conversations?
So short answer, yes. So the conversations are stored in tables within ServiceNow, kind of, so obviously any of your normal reporting tools that you have to analyze, look at table records in ServiceNow can be leveraged to report on there. But I will say, if there's something specific you're looking for, like in terms of someone makes a certain decision in a topic, or how often do they do this or fall into a hole when they're going through the conversation or topic, you probably want to make sure you kind of premeditatively design that into your conversation flow. Like, for example, my knowledge search, if I tried 3 different searches, for example, that may not be good for me just to continue trying new searches, right? I might ultimately hit on where it makes sense to say, you've tried 3 searches, let's take you someplace else to give you the assistance you need, right?
Okay, super. Another one for you, Jeff. How flexible is the knowledge review workflow?
So varies. So I mean, the way we had it kind of configured in this demo environment, is kind of handling kind of design review and certification kind of before kicking off like a knowledge-based kind of publishing workflow. But you in essence can use the workflow editor to kind of kick off additional tasks or activities, approvals that would take place as part of that kind of design review. So I think there's a lot of options there, and also we've kind of kept it as a pretty open toolkit in terms of what you're going to do as part of that review activity. I stepped through kind of each attribute, making sure I've certified or validated that they match a certain criteria, but more could be done or different things could be done in that context as well.
Okay, let's see. Another one, I know there is a way to see how many views for a knowledge-based article, but is there a way to see who is doing the viewing?
Yeah, so in essence, for knowledge, and this is kind of I guess what comes out of the box with ServiceNow, and certainly there's some ways you could configure, I guess, extending those tables or adding more details in the logging. But there's basically a knowledge feedback table. So when you view an article, it'll record kind of at a log in there who the user is that viewed that article. From an output perspective, ServiceNow typically just shows you that this article has been viewed 7 times, and it will record that as part of the attribute, as an attribute of the knowledge article. But it is stored in a table of who viewed it on what date is logged, in addition to if someone provided knowledge feedback, said it was helpful, not helpful, rated it, or added a comment. Those are all kind of stored in that same table.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. I think that's all for questions. I'd like to thank you everyone for joining us. We will have another webinar on the 23rd of October, so please check the resources page at evergreensys.com. Go to resources and then webinars. You'll find the info for that webinar coming up soon, as well as downloads available for all our past webinars. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.